On November 9, 2016, a great many Americans woke up with a devastating sense that something was horrendously amiss with their nation. Donald Trump's decision propelled such good aversion and political shock that by that evening, parts of the American electorate had taken to calling themselves the Protection, summoning the guerrillas who took to the slopes and battled the Nazis amid World War II. Only a day prior, a considerable lot of these same individuals were energetically throwing their tallies for a moderate Democrat. Abruptly they were so-called progressives. The day after Mr. Trump's initiation saw tremendous dissents the nation over that consolidated a panoply of gatherings and interests. For those of us on the left, a huge number of dissidents in pink caps and the fathers toting interesting signs was a promising sight. Could this be the minute that liberals were changed over into radicals? The years since the 2008 monetary emergency have seen an influx of challenge developments, including Occupy, Black Lives Matter and migrant rights battles. What's diverse now, and what's empowering, is that new individuals are getting included, those for whom business as usual before Mr. Trump's entry in the White House didn't really appear to be so awful. In any case, the Protection can't simply embrace the images and dialect of progressives. It needs to include the entire bundle, including radical administration and thoughts. So as to win significant triumphs, the Protection needs to look past the White House or even Congress, and toward more arrangements that assault imbalance and foul play at its underlying foundations. That will require vitality and cash as well as tuning into and working with activists who have been opposing since some time before Mr. Trump touched base on the political scene and who may have conclusions far to one side of the Democratic Party. Keep perusing the principal story. Mr. Trump, like conservative populists crosswise over Europe, rode into control on floods of discontent with unaccountable globalization and developing disparity that have expanded even under liberal and social majority rule parties. As Thomas Piketty exhibited in Capital in the 21st Century, inequality's stunning development hints at no ceasing. What's more, its pulling vote-based systems separated at the creases, nobody yet the rich feels spoke to. The disappointment of the Democratic Party to invert this in the course of recent years can't be exaggerated, which is accurately why the Protection can't simply be tied in with getting Democrats chose. One of the greatest gatherings to rise up out of the new flood of resistors is Indivisible, which was established by a couple of liberal previous congressional staff members and says it needs to get strategies from the Tea Party, as it did when it propelled the boisterous dissents at town lobby gatherings that helped turn the tide against Obamacare revoke. This eagerness has gotten the customary Democratic givers and store-raisers energized, from long-standing gatherings like Democracy Alliance to liberal tech business people. Cash is filling Indivisible and comparable associations. Be that as it may, regularly these gatherings have concentrated on affecting Democrats or getting them chose, now and again effectively, in some cases not, as opposed to building a more extensive development. The Indivisible activists ought to make basic reason with another development that has surged since the race. The Democratic Socialists of America, an extremist gathering that deals with both national and nearby levels, has developed from around 5,000 individuals to around 30,000 since the race, to a great extent driven by its relationship with Bernie Sanders, who, however not a part, additionally recognizes as a majority-rule communist. Revelation, I'm a part. New individuals from the DSA, the vast majority of them 20 to 30-year-olds, have naturally perceived the requirement for radical riches redistribution, framing what the gathering's national executive, Maria Svart, calls the left wing of the Protection. The DSA, which isn't a political gathering, has upheld some left-wing competitors the nation over from the Brooklyn City Council to a Virginia House race. Be that as it may, even as it will work with some Democratic competitors or with Democrats on particular issues, its concentration is pushing a more extensive plan for fairness, for example, putting forth the defense for single-payer social insurance, while condemning private enterprise itself for driving upward redistribution of riches. That may make some conventional liberals and Democrats awkward, yet keeping in mind the end goal to oppose Mr. Trump, we should consider how we wound up with a yawning riches hole in any case. On the off chance that the protection will transform into an essential, manageable left-wing social development, it needs to fabricate solid connections and offer its assets with the general population who are most influenced by harsh financial approaches, sexism, xenophobia and prejudice. I originate from a people who've been opposing for as far back as a few centuries in this nation, Charlene Carruthers let me know as of late when we talked about activism since the race. Miss Carruthers is the national executive of Black Youth Project 100, a racial equity association for dark youth established in Chicago and dynamic in 12 states. The best initial step after a stun like the race isn't simply to dedicate yourself completely to a stir of movement, Miss Carruthers stated, however, to tune into the general population who aren't stunned. Among the numerous activists I've talked with as of late, racial equity coordinators have been the most nonplussed about liberals' newly discovered feeling of darkness. Huge numbers of the general population they see taking stands against Mr. Trump are similar who have demonstrated little regard for their issues and groups previously. Rahm Emanuel, the leader of Chicago, is an impeccable case. He pronounced his city a without Trump zone after the president's choice to end the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. It may be great optics, however his mayorship has been definitely not dynamic on issues like policing, workers' organizations and schools. The election has galvanized activists of numerous sorts. After Hillary Clinton's poor execution with common laborers' white voters, numerous on the left have understood that this body electorate merits a greater amount of its consideration. I talked as of late to Kate Hess-Pace, who established Hoosier Action in her home province of Indiana, a participation association for common laborers Indianans who, with the decrease of unions, have few methods for affecting governmental issues. The gathering has conveyed individuals to Washington to campaign their legislators on social insurance, among different activities. Ms. Pace says that the majority of the general population she converses with in Indiana don't despise Democrats or Republicans, yet outcasts, individuals in Washington who have caused their state's decay. Some new individuals from the protection may have individuals they can swing to effortlessly for direction, their children. The radical developments pointing out imbalance and prejudice a long time before Mr. Trump's decision, from Occupy to the development for dark lives to a developing enthusiasm for communism to the dreamers' dissents, have been driven by 20 to 30-year-olds. Furthermore, these developments are anxious to develop. There's a reason that youngsters were taking up activism and challenge a very long time before President Donald Trump was an expression anybody could possibly envision. Racism, sexism and disparity are just the same old thing new. Mr. Trump's race quite recently ripped the courteous lacquer off American legislative issues. All the while, I trust, he's woken up significantly more individuals to the profound issues in our general public. Many individuals that turn out to be profoundly discontent with the present state of affairs have some minute in their lives when out of the blue they understand that what they've been educated are lies, said Stuart McIntyre, a 27-year-old extremist with the Ohio Organizing Collaborative, an umbrella gathering with a great part of the enrollment originating from dark drove associations in Ohio's urban areas that has additionally observed a deluge of new individuals since the race. As far as I can tell, many people of shading have that mirror minute when they're youngsters. Among left-wing gatherings, many individuals possibly have that minute in school. In any case, for a considerable measure of working-class individuals, and for a ton of white Americans, that mirror minute is really happening at this moment. That's something to be thankful for. I'm searching for changes over instead of for deceivers, Mr. McIntyre said. I need our development to be as large as could be expected under the circumstances.